Hey guys, how's it going? It's your boy M.K.S here. I hope the internet behaves itself because I may have mentioned in some previous videos that I'm having some problems with the internet connection sometimes because we've got proxy internet, so it only works at some points. Anyway, I'm going to try not to waffle. I was thinking recently I would love to get my intros down to just 1 minute or so, but here goes. So I thought I'd talk about some of my dreams for or latest vision or ideas and that kind of thing for South Africa as it went through apartheid. I think people of colour should support South Africa in my view, so I think it'd be great to support them, mixed race people like myself, but also like Black, Asian, mixed race, Native American, perhaps even Latinos, Hispanics, maybe even, and Jewish people perhaps all around the world supporting um, South Africa, as like I think apartheid was run by like white supremacists who believe they're better than all people of color, if I'm not mistaken. So yeah, that's one of the reasons why. That's the main reason, I suppose, why I believe in supporting South Africa. So this is another one of my list videos or series of list videos. Hopefully, I'll get around to doing all like parts 1, 2, 3, and 4. And I hope you enjoy them. And I'd love to have your support if you do like the videos, and obviously watch them if you can. That'd be great. And also share them and support the channel in any way possible. That'd be great. And if this ever does get monetized, I will do my best to donate the money to South Africa. So here goes. So number one, I know they have like the South African inaugural investment summits and things like that, and I think it'd be great to support South African startups. I'd love for countries even like Saudi Arabia. I suppose they have the same acronym as well, SA, Saudi Arabia. So I think it's quite fitting if they use their vast wealth to support South African startups, also support South Africans to have access to tech, to STEM, to training in STEM, science, tech, engineering, and maths as much as possible, like funding schools and education programs, giving all possible. I'd love for all possible people across Africa generally to have access to a PC, laptop, and stroke or mobile phone each, and also training and stuff like that, and that kind of thing. Number two, on that note, I think it'd be great if they get training and are taught like to go from to start their own businesses and then to grow them into S.M.E.s and even bigger businesses and learn all the possible things they can again about STEM, like funding organizations, schools. Like I made a Facebook group about sponsoring an idea. It's just at the idea stage. Unfortunately, I didn't really get to take it further, but at the moment so far. But it'd be great if people sponsored schools, especially like for girls in South Africa, to specifically learn about tech or how to get careers in tech or STEM generally, and how maybe scientists from across Africa could work together. 3, I think it'd be cool if people learn about South Africa's Freedom Day and like support South Africa on its Freedom Day and its key and special dates, which I hope to come to, and discuss with Africans with South Africans especially in this case, what freedom means to them. And it'd be great if there were street interviews, especially on Freedom Day, recorded for YouTube, which I hope will help raise awareness and make people think about South Africa. I hope that they'll do as well as possible, of course. And I'd love to promote libertarianism in South Africa as well, and a lot of things like that. 4, I'd also love to promote peace, anti-violence, of course. I suppose that's the same thing. And cutting back on crime, and again support them in STEM and areas like that, startups, SMEs, and all sorts of things like that. Going on my alliteration, things that begin with S, as it's a Saturday as well. But yeah, I think it'd be cool if they work with Saudi Arabia because they both have like SA, but also Malaysia, India, Indonesia, and Singapore. I think it'd be great. Like those have large Eurasian populations, and South Africa has like what they call coloureds, which are like mixed race people. So I suppose they have kind of had that in common. I think it'd be great if they work together. But if South Africa could look at relations around the world and how they can improve relations with all other possible African nations, how they could unite together through Pan-Africanism and that kind of thing, and also Asian nations and Ireland and other former colonies and countries that have been colonized and that kind of thing, what I call the six a lot of times. Number 5, it would be great to hear from ambition from South Africans about like how they wish, like South Africans, what they wish to do in the future, what their plans are, 5 to 10 year plans and things like that, what their career aspirations are, especially younger South Africans, perhaps even maybe even more than 5, 10 year plans, perhaps, but even longer periods of time. But yeah, what they wish to achieve and what South Africa wishes to achieve as a country. So it's individuals' ambition and also as ambition as a country, and again, how they can work with Malaysia, India, Indonesia, and Singapore, like to tackle crime, terrorism. Obviously, terrorism is a form of crime anyway, and violence and other problems and issues they might face, so they can help each other to reach their goals and that kind of thing. Number 6, again, I would love for them to work on what I call the 6, as I say, like indigenous people or people of color around the world, really, perhaps even just generally, but especially from Africa, Australasia, Aboriginals and people like that, Torres and Strait Pacific Islanders and Maoris, people from island, Latin America, so not even just people of color, but generally countries that are colonized and things like that, emerging market economies and that kind of thing. Also, a bit of a biased one, I know I often say this for number 6 as well, but I would love for them to support Serie A or Italian football. And like, I know Italian football can be a bit racist, so you could argue, I'll say we as a fan don't deserve that support from South Africa because of the racism that goes on in South Africa. But I think that, as well, with bias, I hope they will do so, and it'll be great to see South Africans reach their full potential, work together again, and work on their aspirations as individuals and nations, and do the best they can, like support startups and SMEs and all possible South Africans having access to a PC, laptop, mobile phone each or whatever, and that kind of thing, and tech training, and possibly also like water, food, clean water, food, shelter, and all the bare essentials, bare necessities, but also training for the future so they can be empowered in the future. I hope that made sense. As ever, and I welcome your questions and comments as well, and that kind of thing. Number 7, I dream that Celtic FC will work with South Africa. Celtic FC, I think, often does work on anti-racism and things like that. So I hope they will work to fundraise for South Africa specifically as well. I know African countries generally and Asian nations as well. But yeah, South Africa, I think, would be one of the countries which I hope for Celtic to support loads because of it went through apartheid. I suppose Ireland could say it went through something similar with them, and obviously Celtic with the Irish connection and the discrimination that the Irish people faced, I suppose, and the fact they were divided in two. I suppose even though the colour of their skin might be different, I suppose obviously they do have that in common. But yeah, I think it'd be cool, I'll say, if people of colour support them. But yeah, I dream that God will bless them as well. That would be one of my prayers for people across South Africa. Really, I suppose I'd say people of color, like black and mixed race and Asian. I suppose in South Africa there probably aren't many Native Americans, but also like anti-racist generally. So like white guys who are against racism or want to integrate. So I think more diverse areas and places where people want to integrate, where there's less racism, those are the areas I will wish to support and that kind of thing. And also I wish to encourage my fellow people of color. 8, again, like anti-racists of all backgrounds, especially people of color, which I think we have an incentive to do so, especially. But yeah, it'd be great if I say black, Asian, mixed race, Native American, Latino, Hispanic, and possibly even Jewish people perhaps supported them, people from former colonies, maybe even Latin Americans, other parts of Africa, and that kind of thing. And maybe they could host anti-racist conferences. Number 9, I'd love to support their poets, artists and writers, architects, and all sorts of projects coming out of South Africa. All sorts of things they work on, including the government, and support their like inaugural investment conferences. And I love for as many countries, companies, organizations, associations, and individuals, I suppose, to go to South Africa and work on those sorts of things. And I think it'd be great also if they had like a version of ASEAN for South Africa. ASEAN is obviously Association of Southeast Asian Nations, I think, if I got the acronym right. But basically it's obviously for Southeast Asian nations. I say obviously, maybe not everyone knew that, but if you know anything about that, please post in the comments as well about ASEAN. But yeah, maybe say Southern Africa could have its own version, or Southeast Africa. Maybe Southern African countries generally could have events, and each year there could be a different Southern African country who hosts those events. But maybe South Africa could be one of the main hosts or major hosts, which hosts the majority of those events, or is the main runner or organizer or beneficiary of those events, shall we say, to put it simply. I suppose I do overcomplicate things, but yeah, they could be hosted in different countries like Zimbabwe and other parts of Southern Africa. I'm not very good at geography, so I don't know many Southern African countries, to be honest with you. But South Africa could perhaps host the most events, or have the most buildings, or the most, I'd say, be the biggest beneficiaries or benefiters, if you like, given my immaturity. But yeah, making up my own words and that kind of thing. But yeah, I think it'd be cool if they host those events. And number 10, I'd love to empower especially young people in South Africa, like, again, to work in STEM, start their own startups, start their own businesses and things like that. So yeah, I hope people from South Africa, also on that note, subscribe to my channel. If you help my channel, it'll help me to help you as well, because as a lot of if I do make any profits, I would love to donate as much of that as possible to countries like South Africa, not only South Africa, but South Africa would be one of the biggest beneficiaries benefactors, or whatever, benefiters, or whatever the word is. Beneficiaries, I think, is the more professional term to use. Anyway, I'm going to stop waffling, and I'd love to hear what you think as ever, or read what you think as ever, and I'm out. Peace and love.